Hi folks, my name's Johnny and welcome to the Oddest. When surfing the internet, do you ever see stories and links and think, I'll check that out later for sure? My bookmarks and save pages are full of unbelievable stories that are often so crazy it's hard to imagine that they are true. Let's have a wee look at two of the oddest stories you're likely to hear. Back in April of 2009, a 28-year-old Russian lad called Artem Sidorkin from Izhevsk was feeling unwell. He had developed a cough which he couldn't seem to shake, along with pains in his chest. After putting up with a persistent cough for a short time, things got worse for the poor fella when he started coughing up blood. Quick as a flash, he was down at his doctor's office, and after a brief discussion of his symptoms and some blood samples, the medical team decided it might be best to get a wee x-ray, as they suspected that he may have a tumour. They suspected that he could have lung cancer. So they whisked Mr. Sidorkin down to x-ray, and once he was in position, the radiologist proceeded to take several x-rays of his chest. A short time later, the radiologist and Mr. Sidorkin's doctor spoke with him, and they had some bad news. They confirmed to 100% certainty that he has a tumour in his lung. They would need to operate soon. Not long after that, Artem was back in hospital and ready for his procedure. Once he was anaesthetised, the surgeon proceeded to open him up and conduct a procedure that he had done so many times before. Only what they found, no one in the operating room was expecting or had ever seen before. They discovered a foreign organic object folded into the lung tissue. Only once it was removed were they able to ascertain exactly what they were looking at. It was a small fir tree. It would seem that at some point in the past, Mr. Sidorkin had inhaled some kind of seed which had been lodged inside his lung. Due to the temperature, the moisture and a specific set of circumstances inside the lung, the seed sprouted. Afterwards, in an interview with a news channel, Mr. Sidorkin just said, "I'm just really glad it wasn't cancer." Good on you, Chief. Back in April of 1988, Ivan Maguire was a 35-year-old experienced skydiver working at the Franklin County Sports Parachute Centre in Lewisburg, North Carolina. Besides that, he also worked a later shift at Northern Telecom, a manufacturer of telephone switchboard equipment. Normally, he would spend his mornings getting in a few jumps before he left for his telecom job around noon each day. As a videographer, he would film various people that would hire him to record the parachute jumps. More often than not, these people would be students who would be performing a tandem jump with their instructor. Having over 800 parachute jumps under his belt, he had a wealth of experience and knew what he was doing. On Saturday the 2nd of April 1988, Ivan spent the morning taking instructors with their students up into the skies above Lewisburg, and once they reached between 10,000 and 11,000 feet, Ivan would slide open the side door of the aircraft and take position. He would sit with his legs in the plane and his back to the door. Once everyone received the go signal, which would normally be thumbs up, he swung his torso back and would exit the plane. He would spring into the star position and would be followed swiftly by the instructor and the student. Ivan would be wearing a head-mounted camera, which was connected to a base unit held in a pack on his back. Remember, this was the 80s, so there were no GoPros or tiny wee cameras. These things were massive. Ivan would continue filming until his subjects pulled their chutes, and then a few seconds later he would do the same. The first few jumps of the morning went as routinely as possible, but for Ivan, witnesses would say that he appeared flustered or frustrated. This may have been due to a busy schedule or his camera equipment playing up. After each consecutive jump, he would hand his parachute back to a rigger. These are experienced individuals that basically know everything there is to know about how parachutes are constructed, how they are maintained, and how safety is paramount. It was reported that after one of the jumps and handing his pack to the rigger, Ivan seemed to be preoccupied again with the video equipment. He was seen fumbling at it as if there was a mechanical issue. The next jump was about to start, and as Ivan headed for the plane, the rigger shouted him over. He had forgotten to uplift his parachute. He collected his newly assembled chute, thanked the rigger and boarded the plane. Moments later, they were up at the altitude goal, and as he had done a million times before, he took position and he jumped. Another successful jump and landing. Ivan went over, handed his chute to the rigger, and then proceeded to unhook his video pack again, only to open it up and continue fumbling. A short time later, the next jump was ready to go. Ivan packed everything up, strapped on his chute and boarded the plane. Once they reached the target altitude, he slid open the side door, took his position, leaned back, thumbs up, and he bailed out and began recording. The instructor and the student were shortly after him as his head-mounted camera picked up the successful jump. Once they had reached the right height to deploy, the instructor and the student pulled the ripcord, the parachute opened. A few seconds later, Ivan reached behind him to pull his ripcord, and only then did the terrifying reality hit him. There was no ripcord there, because Ivan realised he didn't put on his parachute. He had put on his video pack instead, thinking that was his chute. 10,500 feet. That's how high they were. Ivan was helpless as he fell to earth at over 150 miles per hour. His body was recovered 1.5 miles away from the airfield. Although the video equipment was destroyed, investigators were able to piece together the footage. However, I won't be showing the footage here. The wife of the parachute centre owner would later release a statement to the press saying, "He's a real perfectionist when it comes to his video photography, and he'd been working a lot on it." The best we can figure is that he became so preoccupied with the video and then being fatigued that his mind was on the video. That's all the stories for today, folks. Thanks once again for taking the time to hang with me. Take care of yourselves, and as always, keep smiling.